Fellas, ladies, you looking for lotions? You looking for beard oils? But unfortunately, everything you get from mainstream got chemicals in it and it's probably killing you? No problem, we got you. Go check out my people from Top to Bottom Hair and Skincare. That's Top to Bottom Hair and Skincare. www.top2bottom, BOTTU, the U is for unique, M.com. Tell them I sent you.
Welcome, everybody. This is our first live. My name's Aaron, and this is the first live episode of Things You Need to Know. I started this channel just because 25 years in business, but 47 years in life. I've learned a lot of things, been through a lot, and I feel like it's one of those moments where I can teach a lot of people some of the trials and tribulations that I've been through. Right here, I have my gentleman Wayne with Power Clean Pros. We're both in the same area. I'm going to let him introduce himself in a moment, but we both do the same business. You know, we're small entrepreneurs trying to take off, trying to make the best of life, and hoping that, what we did in business will pay off for us, the fruits of our labor. So, we've gone through the same things, but I'm going to let him introduce himself and say a little bit about what he does.
All right, my name is Wayne Baldwin. I'm here in Newark, Delaware, and I'm basically right now I feel like a serial entrepreneur. I've had a few different businesses, and right now I'm doing property services, like basically everything. And I've been known to be in the exterior wash industry and exterior services, and now I'm trying to pivot so I can do more things and expand.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And, I've known Wayne since high school. I moved away, been through a lot of, this is my third business. Um, First two business ventures were in another state, and I moved back here after several years growing up, whatnot. And me and him reconnected. Um, I started out, wasn't power washing, but that's part of what I do. My business specialized in more interior work, handyman services, and things like that. But COVID had other uh, ideas for what I wanted to do in life, and things change. That's what happens in life. Things change,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't always stay on that same path. I started out with a business partner. You have a business partner?
I started out with a business partner also.
Okay, okay. That's an experience. This is not my first rodeo. My first business, I had a business partner that came along after things started, and um, you know, I won't really dwell on that topic as much as the fact that not everybody's dream is exactly the same. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Not their dream, their vision, or their drive.
right, right. Like with your business, did you start out by yourself or did you start this together?
All right, so I had a moving company before I had this, and I was running that myself. Everything was good, but sometimes you have to lean on some people, and they can let you down. But also, you need to have good leadership. So I
Hmm.
think back then I was lacking some leadership skills,
Okay.
and I was like, that's where you have to take accountability. But I've learned through the years that if you present the job with more structure and you lead better, you can retain the employees easier.
Yeah.
So back then I didn't know that. I started out moving people, and then all of a sudden people are calling out, and you know who has to go in and do the work. So I
Hmm.
was in there doing the work when people weren't showing up. And then I got rear-ended in some car accidents. Then I wasn't able to do the work, and you know how that goes. So I had to pivot, and I felt that at the time, exterior wash, which was still hard labor because at the time you were still climbing ladders, but downstreaming and stuff was coming along. So I
Okay.
was like, this will be less work, less wear and tear on my body as an industrial athlete. That's what I like to say we are. We're industrial athletes,
Okay. Okay.
but like you got to preserve your body. Like
Yeah.
a lot of us, you know, our health care might not be the best if you're self-employed and everything. You might be paying out of pocket.
Mm.
You gotta take care of yourself, and that means being proactive. So I was like, I'm gonna have to not be in the truck working, lifting heavy furniture and stuff right now,
Right.
and I have to take better care of my body. So I got into exterior wash with a partner,
Okay.
and we were had a partnership for about 4 years, I want to say.
All right. All right. That's awesome. You know, my first business, I wasn't doing anything related to this. I was doing auto glass. You know, it's funny how things turn around because you never know how you have to pivot in business. You know, whether you're starting out without all the tools you need, you know, all the money you need. You think that there's the best time, and as soon as this happens and that happens, and you know, none of those, you know, this is a chess game, but none of those pieces all fall into place at the same time. You know what I mean? So we always find ourselves trying to pivot, trying to make the best of it. Some things that we don't know along the way. It's like, I wish I knew then what I know now. You know, when you started out your business, your small business, and you were trying to grow, and, you know, we make passionate decisions. We make, you know, strong decisions that could impact us in the future, trying to move forward. You know, we're trying to put our best into it, all that we have. And, you know, sometimes that's not enough, and sometimes it's too much. It's knowing that balance. You know what I mean? I remember times in my first business, you know, staying at work until 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it's like, you know, you have to find time for yourself. You're trying to grow something, but the reasoning for growing it, you're forgetting the purpose, you know, and that changes, that matters. But your purpose is still to grow your business, but at the same time, you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to grow family, you're trying to stay on top, satisfy customers, and, you know, at the end of the day, you can't satisfy everybody at the same time.
Yeah, so you're talking about the work-life balance, and a lot of times I live in the work-life rotation. It seems like something's always suffering, so it's like I gotta rotate whatever is suffering.
Yes. It is definitely that balance, you know, because we got to rotate in and out. But, you know, you get stuck some days. It's like your bills are getting bigger, you know, your expenses are getting higher. You know, sometimes they pile up. You know, you have a good week, you have a bad week. Sometimes you have a bad month and a good week, and that doesn't kind of even out the same. You know, you're finding yourself trying to figure out what's the next step, what's the next move. You know, having the right support, making the right decisions. These are all things that, you know, take account when you're starting a business. Are you doing it by yourself? Are you doing it with your spouse and a business partner? Is your spouse your business partner? Because all of these are factors, you know, like, you know, a business can take a factor in a strong toll on your relationship. Um, Not just relationships with your spouse, but relationships with your business partner or your friends. You know, that becomes a huge topic as well, because you don't know the impact of and the way some people feel. You know, you got your closest allies are sometimes not as supportive as you want them to be. You experience that at all?
Yeah, and so this a lesson I learned from the music industry.
Mm.
So you can't look for your friends to be fans.
Mm.
And so I've been in the music industry. I was even a manager in the music industry for a short period of time.
Okay.
And you know, that's the most stressful job in the business because you have to literally tell people what to do,
Right.
and they expect you to be doing everything.
Yes.
So I, you know, there's some of my artists I had to tell, like, you know, you can't look for your friends to be your fans. You need to go out there. Once they see you doing something, that's
Yeah.
usually when they come along.
Right.
Like, yeah, you expect them to support you, and there's some that will,
Right.
and some that do, and you gotta appreciate those people for sure. But for the most part, people aren't going to come around until you have proven yourself somehow.
Okay. I have found, and it's crazy that, it's not that the people who are close to you don't believe in your dreams and, expect or want your success. But it's not always their top priority. I found in some ways, like, yeah, my family is very supportive, but in the long scheme of networking and things like that, you need to have a network and relationships beyond that expectation that these people are going to go out there and help you out.
Yeah.
Um, if
And
you just
also, it goes down to don't be afraid to ask them to do it, because some of them might be willing to do it. You might just
Mhm.
need to ask for some help.
Yeah,
A lot of people,
people
it's
aren't
tough. It's tough.
willing to offer help. They're willing to help,
Hmm.
but they don't know how they can help you without without you giving them a playbook.
Hmm.
I say a lot of times, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And having a playbook with, even if you got a thin playbook with just one play, is better than not having none. That one play can help you to create a plan for the next one. It's like the start of that platform, that one brick, that one page turns into many. um, you realize it don't work every time. You know what I mean? You realize what does and what doesn't work, and you would hope that it doesn't take years, and sometimes it does.
Yeah.
How long you been in business now?
So this particular business is the 11th year.
Okay, okay,
Now I'm now Power Clean Pros Property Services is under a umbrella of Merit Vest, and we're looking for investment properties that we can fix up and resell.
okay, okay.
And we're also looking at doing some contractor work with All Work Services.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, and like I said, we are two small businesses. We're just trying to make it in the world just the same as everybody else. I mean, so you got some people who start out with, big loans, big money, big opportunities, big connections. And sometimes you just have to grow those from the beginning. Your level of success really does matter on where you want to go and how hard you want to work for it. Um,
Yeah.
it's really not an all you got to do kind of a thing. I don't care what business you get in. When you start out with power washing, I I had other intentions. This isn't my first business, and I grew into the power washing part of it. But it wasn't where I started out, and there's so many variables of just power washing itself. So same with networking. People that I know and the networks that I make, they don't all need my services. Everybody, I'm not going to do every job that's available to me, so I can't be selfish and not be willing to share my networking, my knowledge, my opportunities. So because that opportunity may turn around and help me as well, you know. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and I think relationships sometimes are more important than partnership. Or I'm not. I don't want to say it the wrong way, but like, so we both had partners before, and it didn't work out. Like sometimes you're bound to that agreement, but if you have a relationship with somebody and you guys can work through disagreements, and you might make an agreement but things change.
yeah,
If you're able to actually move within a reasonable amount to accommodate both people, that's where I say relationships are better than partnerships, because
yeah, absolutely.
sometimes people are stubborn. They stick to that partnership. Now they want money. We
Mhm.
got, like, now we don't agree, the whole agreement's over.
Yeah,
And if you have a relationship with that person, that's less likely to happen.
right.
Yeah.
Circumstances, like once again pivoting. Circumstances change. The business isn't making the kind of money that you expect. Some one person has to put in more hours than the other person does. Um, you have kids, and your kids' schedules change, so you're not able to put in the same time hours. But there are so many levels of it. How many hours you're putting in labor wise, how many hours you put in a computer, because once again, when you start out, you're like, well, all I got to do is the power washing, go find a couple jobs. And now you find yourself doing, a couple of hours of paperwork or something like that. And yeah, so those things change. And when you start out, you think the easy part, you think the first page of your playbook, but now there's several pages there, you know what I mean? You got to figure out how to navigate all of those situations, um, relationships and communication, whether it's with your family members, your business partner, or your customers. Like I've learned a lot as being a contractor, that not everybody wants or knows what they want the same. You know, some people ask you, can you remodel their bathroom? Well, are you remodeling the whole bathroom, tearing out the drywall? Do you have tile that you want? Do you know what it is you're doing, or do you need me as a contractor to figure that kind of thing out? When I first started out, it's like, yes, I can paint your bathroom, yes, I can do your floor, but tell me what you want. And as I got more seasoned with being a contractor, I realized that communication and a relationship with your customers, because I don't want to just have that one time customer, deal with them for one time and then that's it. You know, that's not a long-term relationship, and you're not building that communication with somebody that they understand, and you can ask them what they want and you can give it to them. So now I know, what part of stage of this process are you in? It depends, because with all the work that I do, you have to know which questions to ask, and there's a lot of questions out there. Not every contractor gives you the same service or the same product. um, you may have one contractor come out and give you whether it's for power washing or for something remodeling. One contractor might say his price is $18,000, and then you got another person that comes in and they're like, well, I can do it for 10. Well, it depends on that person's financial situation. Ask the certain questions. If you are letting them do the whole product, are you giving me high quality products, or are you giving me something that was off the clearance section? When it comes to power washing, are you a guy that just has a power washer and you know how to do it, or you own a power washing company and you understand the logistics behind it, the safeties, and how to protect whether it's the plants or the siding, or what are you washing? um, do you want a great wash? Like, what, there's budgets to it, and these are things I didn't know before. People are like, well, the other guy did it for $99. Okay. Well, how long did he stay out there doing the job? Were you happy with it? How long did it last? These are the questions that, if you are just getting a service done for the first time, these are things you need to know. As a contractor, these are things that I needed to know. And there's no exact book to teach you everything. Yes, you can go to school and get a degree, but once you get out there in the real field of work, you learn some things along the way that, we didn't know. We had to learn it and then turn the pivot and adapt to situations. And that's why I think, after 10 years, I'm still here. This is my third business, and I've been in business for myself for nearly 25 years.
Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, bro, that's a long time. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've been in business for about the same. I had all types of business.
Yeah.
Besides the music industry, I had an eBay store back in the day where I was selling DVDs, and I was doing the drop shipping when it first started. So the now e-commerce, I'm sure people getting blasted with those commercials online, but I was doing e-commerce when it was first hot back early. What was that? The early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think like after so many years in business, do you feel like you shoulda, woulda, coulda?
No, what I do feel like though is that I should have been more flexible. I actually had an inkling about right before COVID. I had an inkling that I should maybe do things a little different. I had my highest growth year during COVID, and I could see things were changing. I was going from maybe 6 to 7 washes a day, to 6 a week.
Yeah.
And now it's way different. It's way less, but
Right. Wait a minute. So you went from 6 a week to 6 a day, or you went
The
from 6 a
opposite
day the
way.
opposite way?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And some of that was pricing, some of that was by design.
Okay.
Like I was getting a lot of yeses. So
Mhm.
you know what that means. You gotta raise your prices a little bit. So some of that was by design.
Yeah.
But and it was booming after COVID because everybody was home looking at their house, like, oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
gotta get this done, I gotta
Yeah.
get that done. So but once that started wearing off, I was like, yeah, I think what I thought was gonna happen is happening, and that was the downturn. And I won't say the economy because I know some of y'all are out here trading stocks and think the economy is the stock market. But what I'm going to say is that our incomes haven't grown as much
Mm.
as the inflation. And I know everybody relates to that. So when I noticed that, and I noticed that employees needed more money, and I needed to ask more money of the customers, and there was a little resistance there, I was seeing I need either higher margin business or I need to get into the volume business, which I'm not a fan of the volume business,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially as a person who's so close to being an owner operator, always on and off the truck. I don't want to be the guy killing myself out there. I want to delegate and spread the labor around. That's what I want to do personally. And I
Right.
feel like that's the key to growth.
I hear you. And like
Also knowing your weaknesses, because that's where you're going to delegate to.
yeah, there's a lot of hats, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, you got to learn to which ones you need to pass off to someone else. Um, if you got a business partner, if that's they're hopefully whatever your weak points are, it makes them their strong points. I always say like everybody needs a sidekick or in a group of Avengers in the sense
Yeah.
like
So what broke down between you and your first partner? Like where did the separation happen?
so it was I'm gonna say it was he had the same problem I had. It was worse. Okay. I had an arrogance problem. You couldn't tell me nothing when I was 27 years old. I'm, got my own house. I've moved out of the state. I felt like, first car, had a business, had a shop, had everything that I thought I was working for, and I call it arrived. I felt like I had arrived and I made it and I did something. And it's like, it's easy to get money and it's really hard to keep it. It's like you get it and shit starts breaking down, excuse my French, but your water heater goes out, the power bill goes up, your truck breaks down, your vehicle, all of these things, your customers stop paying you on time. There's so many variables to what happens. But with my business partner, his arrogance, um, he had gone to school, got a degree, ended up with some money, and he wanted to invest the money. But looking back now and knowing what I know now, he wanted an easy route. He didn't want to go to work, and he knew his money wasn't going to get that far. So he's like, "Oh, I'm going to buy into this person's business, and I'm just going to jump in and where he's at." And it's like, listen, I've learned a lot of things in the 5 years that I've been in business. The money that you put into this, I'm actually going to reinvest most of it back into the business. I'm going to take a couple dollars for myself, but for me to explain that to you, we should have had a better communication. He was kind of arrogant. I was kind of arrogant. You get out of college and you got this piece of paper, and you feel like you know it all. Once again, you couldn't tell me nothing. I didn't have that piece of paper, but I had all the accomplishments that piece of paper would have said I had. So I didn't feel like I needed the paper. I didn't go to college. The hard knocks life of it all. I got my degree. So I thought, but lo and behold, there was a couple of stamps that needed to be approved on that degree that I didn't know about. So the first business partner moved to the state where I live, put his money up, and after about a year or so, I realized we weren't on the same page. Our hustle was different. I was more interested in doing every aspect of the job and whatever it took. and he wanted to boss people around. It's like, this is not how this goes. Just because you went to school for management doesn't mean you're going to have somebody to manage. There's a lot of layers of management there, you know. But before you can get to the point where you can manage anybody, we got to get some employees, you know. And so he had a misunderstanding of what he was going to do, what his part was. And once he realized that there was some labor involved, a lot of work that he was going to have to put forth, some sweat equity, it was too much, you know. And, you know, that business went through the 2008 crunch. The economy did take a toll. That shop that I had, you know, you think when I thought I had it all, I got this new shop. It was more than I needed, but I'm like, I'm gonna make it, build it, and they will come. You know, that was my attitude towards it. You can't stop me. I'm from Philly, so that was the attitude that I had back then. Like, if I'd have made it here, I can make it anywhere. I'm going forward, and I'm doing this. And so you know, I got this shop, and then like 8 months into it, not even, they started construction on the road. Okay. All the traffic that used to go down the road from the center city, which was the most traffic in the city, shut down. Didn't nobody want to go that way. They had to go past my place to get on the interstate. So I had this grand scheme of how things were going to work. But guess what? There were some things I needed to know. I should have looked at the building planning. I should have checked in on some things, and I didn't, you know. And so my cockiness got ahead of me, and I had to fight through some situations that were not only your regular things in business. Now I had to fight with this. My rent didn't go down. You know, my profits and my opportunities went down. And I tried to pivot. You know, I tried to, you know, buy some cars and sell some things and do this and that. And that got me into having to change my stripes a little bit. And I started doing window tinting.
So flexibility.
Absolutely. You know, you have to come up with a plan B. So plan B was, I'm going to start window tinting because some of this jobs come in here. I know a lot of people in town now, and I had started to get a good relationship with people. And I'm like, well, you need windows, and then you need tint on those windows. You know, it makes sense. It's like, if you want peanut butter, you're going to probably buy jelly, you know? So worst case scenario, you're in the same realm. You know what I mean? We're talking the same stuff. And so, you know, I spent the money to get myself into window tinting. Got some training, got to doing it. It was a good part of business, but it didn't, you know, take off, and it didn't replace the destruction of the street that was going on. Because little bit, once again, once I found out they were doing this construction, I had a 3-year contract to stay there. It was my first year. They were going to do this street, finish it, and then start the other street, and it was a loop. So chances are, you know, the momentum is going to take a while for it to catch back up. I was like, you know, devastated financially. So I pivoted, you know, and I had a customer of mine who I was doing a lot of auto glass for, who had mentioned to me and asked me about detailing. I'm like, it's not my thing, you know. I don't know about that. He's like, you know, you got the space for it. And he's like, if you get the equipment, I'll give you my cars. And he was sending me a lot of vehicles at the time, doing a lot of work. And situations happened for a guy I know. He had to close down his shop, and lo and behold, he had detail equipment. You know, got a steel on it, got everything I needed to start this. I'm like, oh, God's looking down on me. You know, it must mean I need to start this detail process, you know? So lo and behold, I go into detailing setup, you know, because, you know, if you got a plan B, you need a plan C. You know, why not have this nice circle of opportunities that you can do just in case?
Now you see why I said serial entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I know where you're going, you know, and I've been through that, you know, because if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be ready to shovel some crap. You know, it's not all about the good days, because not every day is going to be a good day. You're going to run into those rainy days. You're going to run into those situations where you're going to have to pivot. You know, those things you need to know that we're going to keep on discussing and we're going to talk about all the time is out there, you know, and if we don't talk about it, you don't like discuss how everybody's been through these things. You know, if we got 99 problems, I bet 21 of them is the same problem. You know, as a small business owner, like, we go through these things, and, you know, and if you don't have any other small businesses, you're like, man, why I got to be going through this? Why is it just me? You know, and being able to pivot and start a new plan and do more than it takes to keep it going, because before you can actually start making money in business, like you end up putting 5 years and investing all this time and this labor and this effort and this sweat, blood, and tears. And you may lose some relationships along the way trying to grow. You may, you're going to build a lot of relationships too, because you can't grow a business without creating networking and relationships along the way. Every competition ain't your enemy, because at the end of the day, sometimes these are your allies, you know what I mean? Your adversaries, you got a tool or a piece of equipment that y'all can share because it's sitting on the shelf, ain't doing good. It's the same as knowledge. If my knowledge is sitting on the table and I'm scared to sell or share my secret recipe, sooner or later, ain't nobody gonna want my recipe anyway. So this is me sharing this knowledge and me trying to get you to share your knowledge so that we can do something together. And that's why, in business, we have come together and we start this networking thing, and we talk and we try to, have the breakfasts that we've been doing, and talking about how we can grow our businesses or even the problems we're going through, just, hey, what ideas, sometimes we just sit down long enough. He's like, hey, just the other day, you were like, hey, are you on LinkedIn? No, here I go. This is something that it's like somebody be like, how are you not on LinkedIn? Well, I'm not, I didn't know, and so you schooled me on it real quick. And I'm like, okay, here I am. I've pulled this up. I've gotten familiar with it a little bit. I might get one more customer from it. It's not me taking a customer from you because they may not call you or they may not call me either. But at least one of us gets it. And it's like, well, what if a big customer calls us or me and I can't handle it and I'm selfish and I'm not willing to share this with him because he's another small business who one could use the service and the money. Two, I know I can rely on him to do a good job. I've known him for a lot of years. You've been doing this a long time.
I got a good example. I had lost an employee and I had a vacation scheduled. And I remember this client, he wasn't my current client. He was a friend at the time, but I knew he was going to call me and I was waiting to do it. And I was like, yeah, I can't wait to do his house. But I was out of town. He called me and I was like, I can't do it. But I called you.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what you did there, but I remember you took care of the job and everything. And he even called me and was like, yeah, your guy did great for you. Thanks,
he had a
man.
brick house. It was the one in the city. He had the brick house with the awnings and stuff on it. So I remember that,
No, I'm talking about, it was a while ago. Yeah, it was like a richer dude with pool. He had a pool.
Oh, okay.
He had a pool
so
and
more
stuff.
than one because you sent me to do Brandon.
Oh yeah, I sent you to Brandon, so I forgot about that one. Yeah, with the awning.
Yeah, absolutely. So in situations where it's like, you know what, when you can relate to somebody or you can share an opportunity with somebody rather than lose it, now your customer knows that they can rely on you because you get things done.
Yes,
it's going to reflect on you and it's going to return back because the next time when I need help, he was on vacation when I needed his help the last time and I did a big project. But this is the networking that sometimes you need. If they got a deadline, they need to get it done in a certain amount of time and you're like, you're short on manpower. It's good to network with people who know how to do it because employees cost me money every hour. They want 40 hours a week. You know what I mean? It's like, listen, we can go in and knock this thing out. We go in and do jobs and faster than most of our employees do, so we're quick at it. We know what we're doing. We're good. And I don't have to keep on re-explaining and retraining new employees when you have somebody who has the kind of experience that he has. We network and we jump off of each other. It's like we don't clean the same stuff every day. So if I call him and I'm like, man, I got this one grease stain and it happens to be on concrete. What would you use? What do you use? Well, let me check in with my group. Or I know how to use this, or I got some product for you. If you run out of chemical, these are things that I looked at so many YouTube videos, and it's like you get so close to the answer you need, and it's like something missing, yo. Something missing. They left something out, and what is it? And they're like, well, my link's down in the bio, and then you get down there, and they're like, well, just $99, and you can get connected to my thing. It's like, it's like, man, yo. Okay, I just watched this whole video and I thought you were getting ready to show me something. You were going to tell me some things I needed to know. And you got me right there. Now you want to sell me something. I do want to buy something. I want to buy what you're selling, but I don't want to pay $99 to see it. So I want to be able to share this knowledge because it didn't cost me nothing. And it's something that, I could be doing nothing. I could just literally be at home playing video games, or I could, y'all could be giving me knowledge. Like, this is the reason that I want to do this, because, there's some things along the way that I have lacked on, not known about, and learned about so late. It's like, oh man, I wish I would have known about that sooner, and with us networking and being able to be comfortable asking him, or to be comfortable asking you what you know and what we can share, so that we can get to the next level without having to spend that $99 or having to go 20 years waiting to get that experience, because you got these guys who be like, well, I've been doing it for 30 years. And it's like, well, for 29 years, they done had a couple of new techniques I could have showed you, but you didn't want to listen, or that knowledge of 30 years you had, you could have been sharing it with the rest of us. Let's share that knowledge, and let's get out there and, some things I need to know, some things you need to know. And, there's an old man out there with some knowledge. There's a young kid out there with some experience and with some knowledge that had done some things that, I don't know nothing about TikTok.
I mean, even if it's on what not to do, because I mean, a lot of people have failed. It doesn't mean you're going to make the same failure doing what they've done.
I can say one thing. You can learn a lot from a dummy. Okay. Or you cannot listen. You know what I mean? This is the way the world goes, and I want to be able to share information. I want y'all to share some information with me so we can grow, and make some money, because I'm an entrepreneur. I've this is my third business, but I talk to people and they're like, man, you've been a hustler all your life. You've been selling penny candy in middle school, and spinning tops and craziness. And it's like, dang, Joe, that's crazy. My friends call me MacGyver. I've been fixing stuff my whole life. You know what I mean? So I didn't even know that I was who I am. Some people knew who I was before I was, but you start putting these pieces together. And honestly, that's why my business is called All Work Services. You know what I mean? Because all the experiences that I have learned, I want to keep them. I want to still do them. You know what I mean? I learned that, being a one-trick pony don't work in a lot of ways. If all you can do is one thing, and then that thing, especially if a robot comes and learns how to do that one thing you know how to do, you screwed. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I know how to do 5 things. If the robot take the one job, I'm gonna go get one of the other 4, hopefully, before he figure it out. You know what I mean? But I've learned some problem solving. I've learned that when you get hit, you get back up. You know what I mean? Because business ain't no walk in the park. It's not easy. It is a boxing match, and there's 12 rounds, and there's times where you're like, I don't know if I can go another round. I know you felt that way before. You're
I've been through some things in life, and that's why I named my company Power Clean Pros, because I powered through tons of stuff that people don't know.
Right.
And you have to power through in life. I try to teach this to my kids: the resilience, the flexibility. Yeah. It all comes back to that for me. And you got to power through sometimes.
Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility, and that matters a lot with power washing. A lot of people want to jump into this industry thinking that all you got to do and you can make $300,000 and you make a lot of money doing it. And it's like, no, you could. It's possible. You can pull your calculator out and put the numbers together and figure out how many customers you need to do, how much you need to charge. If you're charging $99 a house, you're going to have to do a whole lot of houses to make $300,000 or $100,000. So I hope your calculator got a lot of digits.
Yeah, I know your numbers.
Know what you want to make and what your overhead is going to be, because that's not the same. Your overhead is your cost. What you want to make is a totally different thing. So if you're, the guy that comes and just like, I can beat anybody's price, well, you're going to be in a bad situation pretty soon, because there's some things you need to know along the way. Don't let everybody wash your house, because just because your landscaper does a good job putting lines in your grass, you don't want lines in your house. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, there's some things you need to know about power washing. There's some things don't let me cut your grass. I'm not good at that. This is not what I do. And that's not the profession that I say that I'm in, but I know a guy I could refer you to someone who does that service, and that's what I say. It's like, find the people who are powerful in what they do and network with them, because hopefully there's a grass guy out there who needs somebody to go power wash, and you don't want to let him mess it up. So hopefully he calls me or he connects me with you so that he can have somebody who knows how to do, the proper procedures and the right, protect your plants, protect your grass, all those things.
I got somebody. If you needed somebody for your lawn, I got somebody.
Yeah. So, it's that sharing, finding out, who within your network that you can use, because that's the one thing, that grass guy might know somebody who needs a paint job, some of the services that I provide, and me and him, we network together. So if you're looking to talk to me, you can call him. If you're looking to talk to him, you can call me. We're going to make it work out. You know what I mean? We're trying to be successful, and I'm trying to see him grow. We trying to see me grow. We trying to grow, period, and helping each other out is the best way for us to see moving forward. You know what I mean? You helping people out, like network with your local power washing guy. You ain't got to be his enemy and trying to beat his price, His neighbor gonna want their house washed, like I call him and I can like confidently ask him, look, how much, would you set his price for? McDonald's ain't trying to outsell Burger King on burgers. They set the numbers right around the same. So you pick, what I mean? They're not trying to sell everybody a cheap burger. They're trying to sell everybody a burger at a reasonable rate. I don't know about good burger, but they're trying to sell food at a reasonable rate to everybody, and they're trying to even it out so that the industry can afford to pay all the employees that work there, and that's what we do. I want to have nice things. I want to be able to take care of my family and provide for them and not have to work until 9:00 at night every night as a business owner trying to be successful and trying to get somewhere. You know what I mean? Because it does take that, and I'm not against doing it. You're gonna have to do that sometimes, but it's not a lifestyle that you want to maintain for the entirety of your business. You can't, you have to find somebody to share that knowledge with, that those experiences, those things that that you do, because it will be overwhelming. It will be stressful. Find somebody to talk to. Find a coach. Sometimes we talk.
Yeah, mentors, coaches. Now you got to be careful of these fake gurus.
Not gurus.
Not these fake gurus.
Don't subscribe to the guy that's trying to charge you a bunch of money down here, who trying to give you the knowledge that you can find out here for free.
I've gone to war with some of these fake gurus. They know my name. They know who I am. Yeah. Probably across a couple industries.
Yeah.
But
a coach,
a good coach, a good mentor, and like you got to put thought to action. Like you can't just talk it up and be. We know some talkers. We know some people who always have the good ideas, but we also know that we have to put action to what to thought. So that's why we're in front of you now. Like Aaron's like we're doing this. So we're here.
Yep.
And probably not going to be the last time you see us.
No, this is just the first of many. This is something that I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I had some stinking going on. And what I call that is like, I heard that the other day, a dude was like stinking. Like the negative things, all the excuses that you can make. I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it when I get a chance or when I get this much money. And a lot of times, there is never no prime, no greatest time. It ain't. The best time is now or yesterday. I see a lot of guys want to go into an industry. They're like, well, in the beginning of the summer. No, it's too late at the beginning of summer. You gotta business cards. You got to get some networking going on. You got to get your name out there. So there ain't no greatest time. The more time you waste not starting whatever it is you want to do, that's a year has gone by since I wanted to start this. I bought a tablet. I bought this stuff. And I was like, oh, well, now I need the glasses. And, I'm going to wait till I get the iPhone 17. And then, it's like, no, I'm like, no. Listen, there's guys out here who had a flip phone and was doing this. They were sharing information. Don't wait. Don't make excuses for why you can't do this.
Yeah, just do
it. Like, look, this Wayne stuff. This ain't mine. This Wayne's. So I'm wondering, like, yo, why you wait for me? But this is sometimes like, what, we're gonna share this knowledge. And now we're gonna share his studio too.
Yeah. It was meant to be. We got all the equipment and stuff. We got the tripods. We got We got the lights out here.
I knew he had a studio, but I had never taken the time to come down and sit and check this out, you know. And it's like now, once again, you know, we learn stuff. It's like, yo, you know, we can utilize each other's tools to advance both of us. Like I this is what I wanted. I was gonna wait till I get all this. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to get all this. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna just hang out at his house until I get to that point. You know what I mean? A couple times he didn't know he was like hosting me, but nah, I'm not. I'm just playing.
Hey, it's
but
good.
You know,
hey, these are my daughter's mics. Like, hey, we were. It was destined.
You got to put together the tools that you have. You know what I mean? Because we not gonna have it all. You know, I started some of my businesses out with some crappy saws. I'm trying to be nice. You know, I know we on live TV. I started some of my business out with crappy saws. I didn't know there was 5 different blades. You know what I mean? I didn't know if your blade is bent, so is your cut gonna be bent. You know, but there's some things you need to know. You know, there's a different way to use these blades. You know, when I started power washing, and I'm like, man, these tools is going everywhere. Don't use the red tip. Well, don't use none of those tips. In some cases, they all have a use. They all got a purpose. And everybody has a purpose, and everybody has a part to play. You can't do it all. You know, sometimes you got to ask for help. You know, and it may not be physical help. Sometimes you just need somebody to tell all your problems, so they can be like, bro, I got the same problems. You know what I mean? So not that it makes you feel better, but at least it makes you realize that you're not the only one going through something. You know what I mean? And
goals too, like goals. I always say keep people around you that inspire you. So, like, I got a few people in my friend circle, and I see how they move, and it keeps me inspired to keep going. So, always try to keep some people around you that inspire you. Also,
And even though everybody don't believe in your dream, that don't mean they got to put it down either. Sometimes people don't see stuff the way you see it, but if you don't have nothing good to say to somebody about their dream, don't knock it. Now, if you got questions and you want to be, you know, constructive criticism and you want some actual thought and, you know, behind it, but it's not necessary to be negative. Like, that energy ain't gonna help them, ain't gonna help you. And like, misery loves company, you know. So if you that person that wants to just knock on somebody's, you know, pee on somebody's parade and diss their thought, you know what I mean? Like, that's not necessary. You know what I mean? It's better to just hold it off, keep your thoughts to yourself, and let somebody shine. You know what I mean? If they fail, you know what I mean, do what you can to get them back up. If you got something good you can say, or some knowledge that you're going to help, like, listen, this is what I did wrong, you know, this is what I did, and hopefully you don't have to go through that, then by all means give somebody that constructive criticism, that advice, that thing you think they need to know, without being insulting. You know what I mean? Because, you know, we don't need that. Like, you know what I mean? That's the energy that kind of brings everybody down, and you wouldn't want somebody to treat you that
definitely
way
be positive. That's going to rain. Like, people are going to remember you and call you if they have a positive experience with you. So try to keep it positive, and that'll go a long way.
You know, my client list, your client list, you know, they like, these are like not just customers, these people who got to know you over a course of however many months, years. I've been doing some of these customers for 10 years. I started out not doing their power washing, but now, you know, they call me for everything. You know, hey, you know a guy that does HVAC? I do. Yeah. And because, you know, the relationships that you keep, and you keep a client list, or you keep a relationship list, and people keep in contact with you, you're able to help out and support other people who might need something. You know what I mean? If your heat gets cut off, and I want to be able to call somebody that I can rely on, that might be able to show up and not necessarily in a moment's notice, but show up at a decent amount of time, that can help me out, rather than going through a list of places I got to call. It's like, I know a guy, you know, thank God I know a guy. And if you need something from me, if, you know, you get a leak, you know, I want them to know that they can call me, and I would reciprocate the same for them, you know, because that same kind of energy, those same positive people are the same people that you want to call on, and that would do stuff for you and help you out or support you and be that, like, coaching mentor. Some people don't know they coaching you. It's not necessarily that they are your coach, but there's like guidance that people can offer along the way. You know, my uncles were big coaches, you know, in my life, you know, and like along the way, you see the things that they're doing, and they didn't know they were coaching me. I just knew that they were good men, you know, and all the bad that was going on around me, I focused in on that, because I appreciated it, and I didn't know it at the time, you know what I mean? But you see, it's like I want to be like them. I can see this over here, but I see success over that way. I see these men making it somewhere and doing something with their life, and it drove me to not let all the other stuff that I had going on that was still going on in society or whatever is happening around you. You know what I mean? I didn't let that, be the effect, So, I had choices, we always got choices, you can quit, but that's not a good choice, So when you're an entrepreneur, quitting is not an option. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things you need to know along the way. Don't give up, because you halfway there when you think it's over, and it's not as bad, because you look back and I'm like, 10 years from when you started, like, how do you look at where you are now, and like, would you be proud of that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely. It's so funny because a lot of people told me, "Oh, it's so hard, you'll never be able to do it," and I did take that as motivation, but I want to say they were right about a lot of stuff. I was able to do it, but it was hard. It was very hard. I pushed through a lot of ups and downs, and but I never, like, this is how I eat. So even if I thought of giving up, I can't give up.
Yeah.
So
And I say giving up is not an option, because the only way to succeed is to continue. You know what I mean? Like, people stop and they like, you can't be successful if you quit. And I'm gonna tell you how I know, because Elon Musk still go to work, and so do Oprah Winfrey. She got the own network, and she always be at work all these years. They always find a reason to go back to work. So I ain't made it nowhere yet. I realized when I made it and I thought I had arrived and I had all the things that I was like, I've accomplished, I could sit back on my throne and everything was great. It wasn't. It was just the beginning of a whole lot of new problems. You know what I mean? So even when I feel like I'm successful, I'm like, all right, no, that's just, another page in the playbook, man. Turn this page and start putting up together some new plays for next year. Every year I don't have New Year's resolutions. I got up on the 6th and I was like, man, I need to exercise today, because I couldn't touch my toes, and I could touch my toes last summer, and and I'm never going to be as young as I am today. You know what I mean? I'm going to get older and I'm not going to be able to do the same thing. So I'm trying to, like, I'm going to start stretching. I'm going to start practicing. I'm going to start doing a little bit more, because if I quit, I'm never going to be able to touch my toes again. You know what? So I know if I start stretching now, that success is still there. I can make it. It's going to hurt a little bit, but I can still get there. You know what I mean? So just give it some more time. You know what I mean? Just think you got one more round. You know what I mean? Rocky was told, get up. You got it in you. Everybody does. But you kind of get knocked down so many times, and you get somebody around you that tells you can't do it, and you actually start listening. When I moved across the country, I was told I can't do it. I shouldn't do it. You don't know this. And don't nobody know half of what they think they do. Like, that's the thing. I thought I knew something, and I learned a lot after I thought I knew something. That's when you get the best lessons, is when you think you know it all. Because God is going to be there to teach you some serious lessons that, you didn't think of. You didn't think of it all. You didn't have everything properly planned in that playbook, like whatever. Like, you didn't plan for COVID. I didn't plan for 2008. I didn't plan for my kids when they came along. Most of us didn't. Don't act like you did. You had a scheduled date and stuff like that, because we don't plan. We do what we have to. And I have 4 beautiful kids. They're grown now. But that was something. I didn't have a choice. That was one of those times where you realize, it's not how you do it or how you did it. It's the people that ask me, how you do it with 4 kids? I don't know. You just get up and you take them where they got to go, and you do what they got to do for them. And now, my kids, it's like I have trained and taught and raised 4 young entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? They're doing their own thing. They're teaching me now. One of my sons works for me, and they've all worked with me and for my company, and our company is our company. You know, I own this, but yeah, I did it for them. You know what I mean? I am All Work Services, but it's for all the stuff that it has provided for me and my family too, you know? And like those lessons, I don't want to like not have those lessons and those experiences for my kids, because I don't just talk about this. I live this. You know, my kids have some things that they needed to know. I taught them along the way. I'm trying to teach them and make sure that, you know, all my kids can plunge a toilet. They know where the, you know, the circuit box is at the house. You know, they know how to turn the water valves off, and you know, the change a light bulb. These are simple things to me that it might be rocket science to somebody but it's some things you need to know. I've been fixing stuff for a long time, and I learn something every day, you know. And now I'm that guy who's been doing this for 30 years, but I know I'm not going to say there's nothing I need to know. You can tell me everything. Tell me all the knowledge you want to give me. I want to learn it, you know, because I don't know it all, you know. And now I know. Now I have experience that there's some things I need to know. There's some things we all need to know. We got to teach each other that. So thank y'all for listening. I appreciate y'all tuning in. If you made it to the end, once again, Aaron with All Work Services out of Newark, Delaware.
Wayne Baldwin, Power Clean Pros and Merit Vest out of Newark, Delaware.
And we want to thank the OG Network for hosting us.
Thank
we
you,
appreciate
OG.
this. Y'all want to tune in, check out Ron's Opinion Don't Matter, aka OG Network, but it do. His opinion matters. You can argue with that with him. Thank you for watching.
Fellas, ladies, you're looking for lotions, you're looking for beard oils, but unfortunately everything you get from mainstream got chemicals in it and it's probably killing you? No problem, we got you. Go check out my people from Top to Bottom Hair and Skincare. That's Top to Bottom Hair and Skincare. www.top2bottom, BOTTU, the U is for unique, M.com. Tell them I sent you.